Hi, and welcome. You're listening to the X22 Report. My name is Dave, and this episode 3798 and today's date is December 17th, 2025. And the title of the episode is The Central Bank Tried to Trap Trump. Trump Turned the Tables. The central bank is now trapped and exposed. Now, as we wrap up 2025, it's a good time to slow down and reflect on the year. If there's one thing we've all learned is that uncertainty isn't temporary. It's the world we live in now. Waiting for things to go back to normal isn't a plan, it's a gamble. For over a decade, my friends at Noble Gold Investments have helped Americans protect themselves and the people they love by diversifying their wealth with gold and silver. Look, no one knows what 2026 will bring, but one thing's for sure. In an uncertain world, real wealth isn't digital. It's physical, it's lasting, and it's yours. So when you're sitting around the table this holiday season, surrounded by family, remember the best gift you can give isn't under the tree, it's peace of mind. And that's what Noble Gold delivers. Peace of mind, 1 ounce at a time. Before the year ends, take one smart step toward a safer future. Visit X22Gold.com and get your free wealth protection kit today. That's X22Gold.com. Don't leave your future to chance, or just click the link in the description. And remember, past performance may not be indicative of future results. Investing in precious metals involves risk. Consult your financial advisor before making investment decisions. Let's get right into the economic collapse financial news. Now, the deep state, the corrupt politician, the private West Central Bank, the World Economic Forum, you can see their entire plan to trap Trump in a failing economy has completely backfired. And they thought by downing Biden's economy, and it wasn't just for Biden/Obama, we should say, it was really to bring us into the Great Reset. And they were pushing for the economy to implode, no matter who was going to be in power. Now, of course, if it was going to be the D's in power, they would have told us that, hey, there's nothing we can do. Maybe we should take control by going into the Great Reset. That was their plan. When Trump got elected, their entire plan went down the tubes, and the only thing they had left was to trap him in a failing economic system. And they were trying to push the economy into completely and utterly failing and imploding on itself. And this way it could be blamed on Trump. The problem is Trump trapped them in all of this, and he turned the tables on them. And you have to remember, this is not just about keeping the economy the way it was, status quo. Oh, let's use the same inflation calculations. Let's use the same unemployment calculations. Let's continue to borrow from the private West Central Bank. No, this is about replacing the central bank with the Constitution, the way it was supposed to be. And we could see that the central bank, they're panicking over this because every step of the way, what do you see happening? You see that the Federal Reserve is trapped in all this. No matter which way they go, it's not going to work out well for them because at this point, the people of this country, the people of the world are starting to realize that Trump is right and the Fed has always been wrong. And people are learning that the Fed is the entity that creates the inflation that we have in this country and around the world. And people are starting to realize that the inflation is created by the constant creation of currency. Just like the people are learning that bringing in all the illegals into this country made rents skyrocket, housing skyrocket, and everything else. So people are starting to understand that the deep state system does not work and it does not benefit the people of this country, especially the Green New Scam. When you look at Germany, you look at California, these are the templates for Europe, which is Germany. The template for the United States is California. You can see they've been pushing the Green New Scam quite a bit. And when you look at California, you see taxes are very high, energy costs are very high, and people and companies do not want to stay in California. When you look at Germany, the same thing is happening. And this is why Trump is showing the world firsthand the difference. And his economy that is now being built right now, and remember, it's not a central bank economic system that he's building. He's building a people's system. And as he continually removes everything that the Biden/Obama administration tried to implement, we can see that the economy is improving at lightning speed. And Trump, he put this out on Truth. He's pointing to Thomas's post, and it says, Department of Energy sources tell me the agency is scrapping a $615 million in Biden-era green funding earmarked for Colorado. That includes $257 million grant for the Colorado State Energy Office, which focused on equity and links between climate change, energy, and social justice, which is a freaking waste of time. And you could see right now, everything that the Biden administration put into place, it is being removed. And what people are going to see is that as all of these things are removed, the economy, even in those blue states, they're going to start to get better and better and better. But when you really look at the central bank system, you could see how it actually destroyed the economy in this country. And when you look at housing, when you look at the price of food, when you look at the price of any item, you could see that the central bank system made it difficult for people to make ends meet. And this is why, as the system breaks down, what did they have to do? They had to make people dependent on the government, because without the government, these people wouldn't be able to survive. Remember, the entire central bank system is one gigantic illusion. The calculations are illusion. The system, when they tell you, oh, everyone is doing fine in the system, they're not. You see, all they're doing is creating more and more currency and keeping the mouth shut of all those people that really can't make ends meet. This is why they're on welfare. This is why they're on SNAP. Yes, there's a lot of fraud and there's a lot of other people on this, but this is how they keep people very, very quiet. Because here you have to live on this. This is what you have to receive, and they really don't speak up or say anything about it because they're getting money. And this is what they do until the system completely and utterly falls apart. And you could really see it with the housing market and wages. And right now, CBS put this out in an unusual Wales. More than 75% of homes across the U.S. are unaffordable. Why is that? Well, what's very interesting, Planet of Memes put this out and shows a graph. And it shows it going from 1929 all the way up to present day. And it shows how housing continually moved up and salaries did not, which means we have a major problem. And it's not just housing. It's almost anything. If you actually take wages and then you put any item, these items, they have gone up in cost. Actually, what really happened is the value of the currency has declined, and you need more of those pieces of paper to buy the same exact item, because if you really think about it, the cost of producing items has come way, way down. The cost of shipping items have come way, way down, but they needed to do this so they could be competitive with the Federal Reserve note losing value. Because if we still shipped with glass and we still shipped in wood boxes and we still use the same packing techniques and we still use the same production techniques, people would see very, very clearly that, wait a minute, something's wrong here. Because why does it cost so much to get these same exact items? So over time, they had to figure out better ways and cheaper ways to produce, ship, because as the value of the currency declines, you have to do this. And this brings us into plastic, styrofoam, everything that they tell where they were telling us that's ruining the environment. They're the ones who created all of this. Because as the value of the currency declines, you have to substitute. You have to do certain things to make it cheaper and cheaper. But when you look at this graph, which is animated, you can see that home prices continually skyrocketed, especially when we became the reserve currency, especially around the 70s. All of a sudden, it went straight up. Wages did not keep up at all. And I think this is very, very clear now that the central bank system does not work. Now, as we wrap up 2025, it's a good time to slow down and reflect on the year. If there's one thing we've all learned is that uncertainty isn't temporary. It's the world we live in now. Waiting for things to go back to normal isn't a plan, it's a gamble. For over a decade, my friends at Noble Gold Investments have helped Americans protect themselves and the people they love by diversifying their wealth with gold and silver. Look, no one knows what 2026 will bring, but one thing's for sure. In an uncertain world, real wealth isn't digital. It's physical, it's lasting, and it's yours. So when you're sitting around the table this holiday season, surrounded by family, remember, the best gift you can give isn't under the tree, it's peace of mind. And that's what Noble Gold delivers. Peace of mind, 1 ounce at a time. Before the year ends, take one smart step toward a safer future. Visit X22Gold.com and get your free wealth protection kit today. That's X22Gold.com. Don't leave your future to chance, or just click the link in the description. And remember, past performance may not be indicative of future results. Investing in precious metals involves risk. Consult your financial advisor before making investment decisions. For the people of this country, and actually the people of the world. And what's very interesting is that you could see that the European Union and many other countries that are fighting against Trump, because again, he's going against the central bank system, he's going against the system that they created, the globalist system. And every step of the way, these nations do not have the leverage. Trump, the patriots, they have all the leverage. Remember, they've been shipping their items into our country. we've been buying those items. So if we do not buy their items and we decide to produce the items ourselves, do they have any leverage? No, they do not. It's like any corporation. They're selling a product. If the people aren't buying the product, do they have any leverage? No, they don't. The people have the leverage. And you can see Europe is trying to fight back. United States Trade Representative put this out and said, the European Union and certain EU member states have persisted in continuing course of discriminatory and harassing lawsuits, taxes, fines, and directives against U.S. service providers. U.S. service companies provide substantial free services to EU citizens and reliable enterprise services to EU companies, and they support millions of jobs and more than $100 billion in direct investment in Europe. The United States has raised concerns with the EU for years on these matters without meaningful engagement or basic acknowledgement of U.S. concerns. In stark contrast, EU services providers have been able to operate freely in the United States for decades, benefiting from access to our markets and consumers on a level playing field. Some of the largest EU services providers that have hereto enjoyed this expansive market access include, among others, Accenture, Amadeus, DHL, Minstrel, SAP, Siemens, Spotify. If the EU and the EU member states insist on continuing to restrict, limit, and deter the competitiveness of U.S. service providers through discriminatory means, the United States will have no choice but to begin using every tool at its disposal to counter these unreasonable measures. Should responsive measures be necessary, U.S. law permits the assessment of fees or restrictions on foreign services, among other actions. The United States will take a similar approach to other countries that pursue an EU-style strategy in this area. And the EU, they better start waking up because they do not have the leverage. The people of this country have the leverage. And you can see they're testing the United States as they normally do. But once again, this is going to fail just like everything else. Actually, what's happening right now is the central bank system is failing every step of the way because as Trump's parallel economic system gets stronger and stronger and stronger, the central bank is getting weaker and weaker and weaker. And soon the central bank will be so weak that Trump will have all the leverage against it, and Trump will be able to do whatever he needs to do to restructure the central bank system. Now, once again, we could see those individuals, part of the deep state, part of the central bank, they decided to sue against Trump's tariffs. And why would his tariffs be so scary? Why would they be afraid of it? Why would they not want it? If it's bringing in income into the United States, remember, these people are not for the United States because they are part of the old guard. They're part of the central bank system. And the central bank knows if you have tariffs, you cannot have a central bank and tariffs operating at the same exact time, because the central bank depends on internal revenue to keep the people enslaved. They want you continually borrowing their currency. If you have a tariff system, what happens? You don't need to borrow from their system, which means the people don't have to pay those taxes, which means the people aren't enslaved. So as the tariff system gets stronger and stronger and stronger, Trump then says, listen, I'm going to give some money to the people. Have you ever seen the central bank say, listen, I'm going to give you some of the money here? Because if they did give you some of the money, you know what would happen? You'd have to pay it back because you're borrowing it. They're not giving it to you. When Trump says we're going to give the people of this country money, we're not borrowing that money from a central bank. We brought it in because countries ship their products here. There's a fee attached, and that money can go to the people. You don't owe anything on that money. You don't have to repay it via taxes. That's the big difference here. And you can see the central bank, they don't want this to happen because once again, as Trump's system gets stronger and stronger and stronger, he's going to wean us off the central bank system. Soon, the central bank system will just be sitting there saying, does anyone want to borrow from me? Come on. Trump will say, no, we don't have to. We got a different system where we're bringing in income. We don't need to borrow anymore. And actually, I'm going to start weaning people off the internal revenue because I'm going to pay it from the external revenue. So I'm going to free the people from your chains. That's really what he's doing. And the lower income people, the middle class, they're going to feel it first. Actually, when you look at the central bank, they started with the wealthy because everyone's always against the wealthy. But now Trump is going to do it in reverse. He's going to start from the lower to middle class people. And they're going to say, wow, this is incredible. And as jobs are coming back, this is really going to actually push the economy into the stratosphere. But you can see the central bank, they want to stop this. This is why they're suing, and this is why the case is in the Supreme Court. Trump, he put this out on Truth. He said the following. Numbers recently released show that tariffs have reduced the trade deficit of the United States by more than half. This is larger than anyone except me projected and will only get stronger in the near future. Everybody should pray that the United States Supreme Court has the wisdom and genius to allow tariffs to guard our national security and our financial freedom. There are evil, American-hating forces against us. We cannot let them prevail. Thank you for your attention to this matter and make America great again. And there are evil forces that are trying to stop this. Because you have to remember, the central bank was installed back in 1913. It completely came online when we became the reserve currency right after World War II. And then they went full fiat in 1970 when we came off the gold standard. And once we came off the gold standard, the central bank system took complete and utter control of the system. Actually, most likely in 2008, that's when they really took control of the entire system, because that's when they started to control the rates, control the market, control everything that we're doing today. And they got the people used to this. So you could see that as of right now, Trump is attacking the central bank, and the central bank is trying to defend itself. And they're hoping the Supreme Court rules in their favor, because when the Supreme Court doesn't rule in their favor, what's going to happen? Trump is going to go and push forward at lightning speed, and the central bank is going to suffer. Now, even if the Supreme Court says, okay, we're going to delay this, or we're going to push it down to the lower courts, or whatever they're going to do, Trump does have other ways of using tariffs. He would like the Supreme Court just to rule in his favor, because, again, if you go back in history, we have precedent. Many, many presidents have done this before. The tariff men have done it. And remember, the central bank cannot coexist with the tariff system, because, again, if the people are not paying their taxes to the central bank, they're not enslaved in the system. And if you're taking in funds from other countries and you're paying the central bank externally, it's much harder to control the country. Plus, it will not work because they need a trading system where there are no tariffs. And this is not going to work well for the central bank system. And this is what Trump has been doing. We've been transitioning from the globalist central bank system into Trump's tariff system. And yes, every transition does not work perfectly well. Actually, Trump's is working pretty darn well compared to when we transitioned from the gold standard to full fiat in 1971. We saw long gas price lines. We saw a deep recession. We saw people getting laid off. Actually, the UK, they were in rolling blackouts. It was a complete and utter disaster during the 70s. This time around, you could see it's very, very different. Yes, we're coming off of the hangover of the Biden administration. They have caused the inflation along with the Fed and Obama from all the policies that they put into place. But as Trump removes the illegals, as Trump keeps adding different tariffs to the system, adding the gold card, adding energy sales, drilling for oil, selling AI technology, the system is just going to build and build and build. And this is something the deep state players don't want. They'll fight back to the very, very end, because once they lose control, they're going to lose control forever. And remember, we just can't take over the central bank and restructure it. Yes, we need to do that, but that's not the last step, because once again, if we don't get rid of the laws, if we don't reverse certain amendments, if we don't add certain amendments, the central bank is going to come back again. You have to remember, this is the third one in this country, and this is the third time we're getting rid of it. And remember, the central bank has been around for thousands of years, and it's been in a lot of different countries. It's been in France, it's been in Spain, it's been in the UK. Here it is in the United States. And now Trump and team, they're working very, very hard to get rid of it. So you can expect the central bank, the deep state players, to fight back against this. And everything that you're witnessing is to try to stop all this. When you see attacks, when you see maybe a cyber attack on a financial institutions, this is the system trying to stop Trump from removing them. That is what you're going to see. But I do believe Trump has set it up absolutely perfectly to show the people that his system runs supreme to the central bank system, because when we get into 2026, you're going to see dividends coming to the people. You're going to see the refunds that you're going to be getting. You're going to see low energy sales. You're going to see jobs that are going to be so plentiful that it's going to make people's heads spin. And you're going to see that Trump, everything that he said in the past has come true. And it's going to get better and better and better. And this is something the central bank doesn't want anyone to see. So all they have is this time period right now to convince you that Trump has destroyed the economy, when in reality, he's taking us out of the deep recession, depression that Biden/Obama/ the Fed put us in. Because remember, they were preparing for what? A great reset. So that's why we were heading down that path. Trump is not preparing us for the great reset. He's preparing us for his reset, where he's going to reset us and move us away from the central bank system and into a people system and back to the Constitution. And as we move back, what are you going to see? You're going to see the alternative currencies start to move up. And I do believe once Trump starts giving the signal that gold is important, maybe we should audit, you're going to see gold start to skyrocket. I think silver is going to be right there with it, just like you're seeing it right now. So I do believe you're going to see precious metals really start to move like we've never seen before. Remember, the central bank had to keep precious metals suppressed so people wouldn't understand what was really going on. Can you imagine as the fiat currency continually lost value? Remember, inflation is cumulative, which means the value of the currency continually lost value. Can you imagine from 1971 all the way up to today, if you had the currency lose value, and every time it lost value, gold went up $1,000? I mean, back in the 80s and 90s, people will go, why is gold at $9,000 an ounce? This doesn't make any sense. And then when we hit the 2000s, people would say, why is gold at $15,000? What is going on here? It would show everyone that the currency was worth absolutely nothing. So what did they have to do? They needed to control it any way they possibly could. And what they did was they created the paper market. And they dumped paper after time to keep the gold price down. And now you're going to see what gold is truly worth against the Federal Reserve note, because that's what it's pegged against. So you're going to see gold start to move up and up and up. Yes, they'll try to push it down. Yes, you'll see gold come down. But actually, in my opinion, that makes the perfect time to buy even more of it. Same thing with silver. Same thing with Bitcoin. Because you have to remember, we're fighting against the deep state, the central bankers. They're always going to try to push it down. And I do believe Trump is waiting for the right moment, the right time to actually say, you know something? Maybe we should be looking at the gold. Maybe we should audit the gold, because once it reaches a certain level, I do believe this is when he's going to start that narrative. But you don't do it too soon to give the central bankers, the deep state players, the heads up of where this is all going. They might have some idea, but I do believe he's waiting and waiting. If you notice, he really hasn't mentioned much about gold. The only time he mentioned it was in the very, very beginning when he had Elon with Doge centralized. And Elon mentioned auditing the gold. Trump said, yeah, we should audit the gold. And I do believe that from that point, he just wanted to start the narrative, get people to think. Because eventually what we're going to do, we're going to find out what we really have. And once we find out what we really have, I do believe this then will actually destroy the central bank system. Listen, everyone, thanks a lot for listening. Be well, be safe, and especially be prepared. Thanks a lot.